I can assure you. So David Galbraith is one of New Zealand's most, I'm going to say, successful sports psychologists. He's worked with some of New Zealand's most elite athletes, as well as some of New Zealand's most unaccomplished referees. So I think tonight, hopefully, you'll be able to unleash some greatness, as his book says, by one. So David, the floor's yours.
Right, to start off with, I want you're going to mingle and find out where you were born, so geographically as close as possible to where you're born, and then I want you end up in, let's say you're all born in Mercer, and you're going to have a little hub from Mercer, maybe Penduins or whatever, North Shore, Invercargill. So you're going to mingle and find out as close as possible where you were born, and then end up in little wee subgroups. Where you go.
Wellington. Maggie, you're outside.
So this year we went 0 from 1. So I've been down the road for 11 campaigns with the boys down the road. We went 0 from 1, then we went 0 from 2, then we went 0 from 3, and people started asking me, how's it going at the Chiefs? I said, get fucked. Then we went 0 from 4. Oh, actually, that's my only swear word, so I just had a look at the gauge about that. And then 0 from 5. So then we drew with the Hurricanes. Not at one stage was I worried. On my phone, I've got a thing called a decibel meter, and the boys didn't stop singing above 110 decibels, because I get them to sing. Few people look in and they think it's a little bit weird, and people say, oh, bloody boys are singing gospel, that's why we're struggling. But when you've got 60-70% Pacific Island, you better sing, otherwise you're missing the beat. So we sing 110 decibels, didn't get below it, and I measure laughter, so it's my only KPI. All we needed to get sorted was our defence and the rugby, and we got that sorted. And then obviously we almost I actually thought we were going to knock it off. When we beat the Crusaders in Fiji like that, and then the Rebels, I think, a week later, I thought, you son of a guns, you're going to come from nowhere and you're going to take this down. I was thinking, man, I know I'm not allowed to bet in rugby, but we should have been betting around 5 to win that competition, because I bet the odds were pretty damn good. So we're going to sing. So each of the little groups, so we've got Aucklandish, Auckland. How does it go around the room? Just call out what your group is.
South Africa.
1 South African, 2 South Africans, right? That's good enough. That's a group.
Hamilton.
How many from there?
3.
Oh yeah, that's all right. 3 from Hamilton, 2 from South
Are you all
Africa.
related?
What have we got over there? Christchurch.
Labang, Indonesia.
All right, so you can join.
I'm orphan, so I'm on my own.
Okay, you can join Christchurch. What about here?
Random Central North Island.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah. And then Wellingtonians, random. Okay, you can join Wellington.
I know, we're
We're
On here,
Brits.
Britain.
Yeah.
So Britain, how big is this group?
1, 2, 3.
All right, well, let's just join this up. So let's say one group here, one group there, quadrant there, and then in the back. So what we're going to do is just going to do, you're going to have to, this is a very small exercise, but it's a beauty. I was trying to figure out how I could get this opened. I was talking with Angus before I came in. There's one that we wanted to use, but just some of the age group means it's not appropriate. So we'll go to plan B. Ants come marching in. How does that go? The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. Everyone know that one from their childhood or their grandchildren or their children? The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The little one stops to... Oh no. Help me here.
Don't know that one.
No. The one by one. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The little one stops to suck his thumb.
Rainbow song might be better.
No, take a minute. someone will know it, take a minute in each group, because we're going to sing when the ants go marching in. So each group, just see if everyone knows it. We're going to do 1 minute to prep it. Same in that group, same in this one, and this one. I'll Google it so I can get it.
3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Hurrah.
Samara and Tonga could have done that.
Can we just start that again? That's how it starts.
So you got it?
Play it Okay, here it goes.
You got it?
The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, the little one stops to suck her thumb. Go marching down to the ground to get out of the rain. Now there's 3 booms, there's not 4. When people get pissed, they go boom, 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 boom. You say, oh, there's 3. Boom, boom, boom. There goes the ants go marching 2 by 2, hurrah. We're only going to do 1, we'll just do the 1. So have a little practice, 1 minute in each group, and then we're going to have it as a competition. So those groups have a little practice. You can get a conductor going if you want.
Yeah.
135 decibels to break those windows. I think we're going to get that. I'm going to come and stand close. We'll start here in the back corner. Back corner, did you say? On 3, I need someone to lead this in. On 3, 3, 2, 1, go.
The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, the little one starts to suck his thumb, and they all go marching down to the ground of the rain. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
I don't think we've got tapes there.
3, 2, 1, go.
The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, the little one starts to suck his thumb, and they all go marching down to the ground to get out of the rain. Boom, boom, boom.
Right, smaller group. I know you guys join in here.
You use the time. Yeah, we're allowed to use the time.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Go.
The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, the little one stops to suck his thumb, and they all go marching down to the ground to get out of the rain. Boom, boom, boom.
Ready, I mean.
Not quite the correct window.
3, 2, 1, go.
The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, the little one stops to suck his thumb, and they all go marching down to the ground to get out of the rain. Boom, boom, boom.
25.
What was your number? 99.3.
104.4.
104.4.
102.6.
102.6 and 100.8. So there's your winner. The next one. Right, so we're going to all do it together now.
That's always too talk, isn't it? Yeah, everyone to do the other side.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Everyone.
The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The
Have a little chat with the person next to you. What was that like? Did you enjoy that? Did you hate it? Just have a little chat. Where you go? So I guess I hope tonight is useful for you. The wonderful thing is, if it's not, I don't give a shit. I'll hop on my truck and I'll go back to Hamilton. I was going to say Hawke's Bay, that's a bit scary. So I grew up in Hawke's Bay. I've been in Hamilton for 20 years, so it feels like Waikato is my home now. And I won't care. I'll care that you have a good life, but some of you I will definitely see again. But the reality is we interact with people every day we're never going to see again. So why do we care about them? We should make sure we care about ourselves and the people that directly are related to. So for me, my 2 daughters and my wife, I care a great deal about them. So everything I've done, ironically, we'll talk through some stuff tonight. Because I hope you got a bit of a sense about the handbrake. Because I want the men to sing at above 110, because 110 for me is the metaphor. So if they can sing at 110 in a room, I want them to be able to play rugby at 110 as well. So see, there's the metaphor. No damn handbrake. So when you're refereeing, if you can sing 110 in here, how loud are you singing when you do your refereeing? How much handbrake have you got on because you're worried you're going to make a bad decision? You're worried about what the coach is thinking on the sideline. You're worried whether you're going to go further than what you've already at with your career. You're wondering whether you're ever going to make it in refereeing if you're any good. You're wondering whether anyone's going to see you're a bloody imposter and you're actually shit. All the stuff that comes in your head. So everyone's got their handbrake on the whole time. The best thing about children was having those kid movies. Has anyone seen it's a Madagascar?
Yeah.
Europe's Most Wanted. There's a moment when he's driving the nuclear jeep, and the general goes to the sergeant. Sergeant, where's the brakes? And he goes, Sir, there's no brakes. Why not? I didn't put them in, sir. And I can't remember the exact words, but you get the gist. He goes, good commitment. I love the commitment. So everywhere we go, we meet people who've got the bloody handbrake on. If I was mentoring you individually, I'll ask you some questions that I'll be asking individually too, but my job to help you referee properly is to get rid of the handbrake. So when you go and referee, that's how you should be living. If you fart and burp at home, then you should fart and burp on the rugby field. If you're all prim and proper out there, but at home you're a bit of a loose cannon, and you like your beer and you go pig hunting, how the hell is that going to work? There's no way you're going to be functioning out there highly if you are an imposter. People often say to me, how do you do this professional, personal thing? And I'm thinking, well, in my 20s I almost had schizophrenia, so I'll talk about that soon. So they talk schizophrenia as 2 personalities. I go, what do you mean professional, personal? I want to get to a point where I'm almost 100% what goes through my head I say. Obviously there's some shit in here that I don't want you to know about, it's a bit weird. But in general, 99% of what I say up here, I think in here I should be able to say. So most people at work, they might hate his guts, I might hate you. And it's like, good morning, how are you, how's your family? I don't give a fuck about his family. Bloody hell, we're all imposters. So my idea is to help you be you. The samurai, old terminology, old Japanese term, it's kazemono, K-A-S-E-M-O-N-O. This guy from Wellington, Waikato, 15 years old, went to Japan to learn about samurai because that fascinated him. So I like to think he went to Japan and became samurai. He's now a professor at Canterbury and a Japanese university. He translated one of the diaries of one of the very best samurai ever from the 1650s. So this book is, I think it's called Bushido, The Way of the Warrior, The Secret Wisdoms of the Samurai. In there's one passage, because basically it's just his notebook. So he's got like 250 key points. It's great for a man, you just read one point, that's your point for the day, and you put it down, carry on with your day. So you just have to get that little thing. One of those passages said, talked about the very, very best samurai. So they became uncorruptible, so they couldn't be bought to go and defend the mafia. They worked for people out of values and moralistic code, and they're also the very best in the combat. So like maybe a Kevi, from what I've heard about Kevi, or Richie. I don't really know those guys, but people say good things about them. So maybe that's, 1 in a million type warrior became a kazemono. But I couldn't call myself that. Someone had to say don't say that about you. It's literal translation, that term, quintessential weirdo. So if you've got a goal, I'd hope your goal for your refereeing is to be quintessentially weird. Because unless you are, you've just been a robot, trying to fit in to how you think in here you should be. There's no way under pressure in a key moment when you make a decision, if you're trying to be a robot, you're going to make that quick enough or reliable enough over time, and then you'll be you know, inconsistent as hell. Right? So that one key thing is if you can't run out there and do that, then you're going to be compromised. So I start with the singing because I want you to feel straight away what happens in here with the old handbrake. There's no way I could have ever done that in my 20s. Panic attacks, I used to piss my pants. Panic attacks, depression, and I had verbal command, auditory hallucinations to hurt people. So I was on the edge of going to a psychiatric hospital. Funnily enough, I was at Auckland University and trained as a clinical psychologist. So now I'm a 25-year clinical psychologist, and I was almost in a lock-up serious unit for people who were going to hurt people with psychiatric conditions. It was, I'll tell you, it's a hard case how close it got, but I did it. And I'm still dry. So, something's working. Back then, I had it all wrong. Everywhere I went, I was trying to fit the rules of, or fit the way that I thought people wanted me to be. Miles away from who I was. So your biggest challenge isn't whether you know the refereeing rules properly. Most people get into that and they'll go, I want to be 100%, I don't want to make any errors. You're screwed. Alright? But if you can spend the next 10 years figuring out who you are and being that person and loving refereeing, then we'll see how good you get. And rugby will grow because of it, because in this room is the legacy or the future of rugby. The rugby players might not think that, but they need to get out their own arse. You guys are the future of rugby because you control everything. If without you, we're stuffed. So refereeing, ironically, the rugby unions understand that too. This room, volunteers, grassroots rugby. Anyway, different discussion. So tonight is about you. I'm going to step you through some things so you'll get a bit of an idea about if I was supporting you individually. This is how it would roll. So I'm on my 3rd Olympic campaign, so this is how I roll with Olympic athletes, this is how I roll with rugby. I don't really give a rat's ass. Of course I love winning. But that's, you don't even have to write that down anywhere, because if you're in this room, it's more than likely you probably were a sportsman, are a sportsman, you enjoy competition, you enjoy that part of it. So you need to write down, I hope to referee well. It's a given. We don't write down, we hope to beat the Blues. It's a given. They thought they had us this year. We're just painting a picture. Just don't worry about the picture we're painting though. So that's the irony. So we're going to step through that and you'll get to see how this all rolls out. This is how I believe sports psychology should look. Bottom up, people up, not make sure you get your breathing and meditation right. That's like the top end. That's almost like what I found is that people that take care of who they are as a person and they can be themselves, they can switch like that into performance because they know who they are. They want to perform well. There's not a need to perform well. When they pull the jersey on, that last minute, they switch, boom, they go and play. Half an hour before that, they run past and go, got any jokes, Galbraith? Or quarter an hour, what's the riddle this week? Because I'll just run around the field with pre-game. I'm just saying riddles or telling jokes or doing something. That's all they want. They just want to stay not switched on for battle yet because they want it to be emotionally like everything's there, then boom. So I'm going to ask you some questions, you're going to talk to each other, and then we're going to just build a little bit of a framework. So you think about now, Angus? Sure. Yep, okay, so we'll roll up in about now. So here's your first question. Oh, I'll tell you a story to it because it helps you get the idea of the question. Listen to a podcast by the #1 US Navy fighter pilot. So there is Top Gun. I didn't realise there's Top Gun. I thought it was Hollywood. There is a Top Gun, and there's actually they're doing another Top Gun with Tom Cruise as an old man. Even better, they're doing another Terminator. They're doing the last Terminator. You know how the Terminator? That's First Blood. That's Rambo. They're doing another Rambo. Guess what that one's called? Last Blood. There's no shit. So Mr. Stallone's an old man, still pumped on steroids, and it's called Last Blood. I was just like, what? But anyway, the Terminator one. If anyone's done the Terminator movies, my age people, you take the movies. So Sarah Connor is an old woman in it. And just go onto YouTube when you get home and look up Terminator trailer. She opens the door and I think it's a cabin. Guess who walks out? Arnie. So she's obviously got Arnie's Terminator when he dies, brought him back to life. So it's just epic. Anyway, so there is a Top Gun. There is a Top Gun. So this guy he was one of the best pilots as a pilot. Then went into Top Gun, was a Top Gun. Then he became instructor, top instructor. All the pilots then rated who they thought had been the top pilot ever. So you know what, Mark Todd was like the rider of the century? Basically the same question. They said this guy. So Michael Gervais interviewed him on a podcast. He said, why are you so good? He said, 1, I love flying. I never want to be #1. I just wanted to fly. So if I'm working with you individually, guess what your first challenge is? Prove to me you love refereeing. Otherwise, get out of it. because you're in it for the wrong reasons, ego, control, covering some sort of previous failure, I don't know, whatever it is. But if you're here for an ego reason, you're going to ruin the game. If you love refereeing, stay in the room. That's your first challenge, is to prove to me and prove to your coaches that you love this and you do this. Well, you don't get paid anyway, but you know, you'll do it for as long as you can. You'll be like that 100-year-old swimmer. See, anyone seen that on the from Australia, the social media? He's 100 years, 99 years old, smashing records, and he's all embarrassed because he just loves swimming. So there's your first challenge. So his pilot, I love flying. If I couldn't fly jets, I'd be flying Cessnas. So that's key. The second one is, he said, when a plane is delivered from the factory, it has a physics equation it comes out with, which makes a graph which looks like an envelope. It's the recommendation about how fast you can fly it before it blows apart. And they fly along, they call it flying along the edge of the envelope. So he used to love to hop in a new jet, and he would fly it faster and faster and faster until the jet started to shake and rattle. And then he would just relax and fly all his jets like that. So he's flying all his jets at 100% performance. Other guys hit the rattle, shit the bed, back off the accelerator, 95% performance, or 90% performance, or 85% performance. So straight away, that's why he was better. He was always in the best jet, and he was at 100% performance. Everyone else might have the best jet, but they're at 95% performance. So the metaphor for us is, if we think about the layers, we're going to give you some layers that you can start to use to mentally evaluate yourself each day, and in relation to your refereeing and life, but more importantly, life. Well, that's the rattle on the jet plane. But how much are you rattling in your life? See the metaphor switch here and the bridge across into day-to-day life. So 10 out of 10 is living fully, which is living in the rattle. Right? So it may be you're pushing yourself in your professional development. You've made a couple of phone calls to people that you're petrified aren't going to want to mentor you, but you're like this, pissing your pants, making the phone call because you know that person's key to development. That's rattle. Asking for appraisal, asking for feedback. Stepping into an area which isn't your expertise, becoming a novice again. They are all rattle examples. 0 out of 0, or 0 out of 10 is hoping you're going to win lotto, already planned your score, your holidays for the next 5 years, can't wait for the weekend, you hate your job, you push snooze, you wake up in the morning and roll across and look at your wife and think, what the hell was I thinking? That's 0 out of 10. So you're going to have a chat to each other in the last week. How much have you been rattling? If someone says, 7, I've been 7, I've been rattling. Get some evidence, because people, men especially, bullshit. But 7's probably a 2. Right, so you're going to ask them the last week how much rattle has been going on in your world. And there's looks like there's some youngsters here still at school. So we're what, week 2 are we now, in the 3rd term? Right, you can ask how hard have you worked at school this week? How many extra tutorials have you got? How much homework have you done on your own bat? How much rattling you got? Or you been on bloody Facebook or whatever it's called now, Instagram? I'm studying, bullshit you are. Right, so that's 0 out of 0. So it's the same for the kids. So if you're here with a parent, they can ask you, and it's a good opportunity to have a little chat. So ask the person next to you, maybe 2s and 3s. Where you go, how much rattle's going on in the room? I can't emphasise enough where courage fits into all of this. So I've got 2 daughters, one is almost 17 and one is 13. People ask me, how are you getting on with your bitchy teenagers? And I look at them and I say, I have no idea what you mean. You must have fucked it up somewhere. They ask me, how are you raising your girls? And I go, well, how do you raise teenage girls? I said, I have no idea. I'm a man. I raise them like boys. And they're like, what? I said, well, that's my wife's job. She's a woman. She knows about girls, so she can raise them like girls, and I'll raise them like men or boys. And I reckon we'll get it right. And they're like, man, you're a weird fella. I said, I've got 2 goals with my girls. One is that they can fight. And that's where you see people like, what? And I go, I want them to grow, because I just keep thinking, 18 years old, they're going to come to Auckland Airport and go through customs and go overseas. So my job as a dad is to prepare them to go out that customs gate, see your dad, we'll stay in touch. And I'm like, no, don't. just let me know every now and then you're still alive, but I don't want any Instagram photos. I want that to happen. So I keep thinking, okay, so 1 year old, time's ticking. I've just got all the way through. I've got to help them get to 18 ready for the world. So I thought, all right, what's the first thing they need? They need to learn how to fight. So I was mentoring a young woman who was a Muay Thai kickboxer years ago. Very good athlete. And she said, because she wasn't part of the high performance system, so she had to cover all her own expenses, and she said, oh, I want to pay you. I said, don't worry about it. I'm going to ask you for a favour in a few years. And I had a chat to her about it, and she said, deal. So I texted her 1.5 years ago and said, hello. She texts back, is it time, is it? She comes home to my house 2 nights a week, because Muay Thai's got a little bit of an underbelly I have to be a little bit mindful of with my girls. So I get her to come home and train them. She's trained, she said, I've given her 1 year to train them, and then we're going to put them in some fights. Because I want them to be able to stand in a ring when that guy or the girl that's fighting intends to knock them out. And to feel what that feels like. And then hopefully figure a little bit out and try and knock them out and be comfortable with that. Just a couple of fights, just to help them understand what that side looks like. So when they're in here having a beer with their mates after a game of footy out there, if a guy walks up and grabs their ass, they can turn around and say, go away, asshole, and carry on drinking their beer. And if he tries to have another go, he's on the deck, and they're still finishing their beer. So I want them not to have, I need to be confident in the world, or I need to know their skills. I just want them to have courage. Now, courage and trust in themselves go very hand in hand. There's only one way you can build trust. So if you want trust on the field and your refereeing ability, you can't give yourself trust by trying to persuade yourself you're good. You can't explain to yourself, I'm good at what I do and I know the rules, I'll be okay. It's an illusion. First mistake, you'll piss your pants out there and you'll be a wreck. What trust comes from is putting yourself through the test. The deeper the test, the bigger the test, the deeper the trust. So the more courage you're able to do to push yourself with your own evolution as a referee, that's what's going to help you have trust out there. So for my girls to go overseas and have trust in themselves and then have ambition and enthusiasm to go and take on the world, that's one test I reckon they need to have. And the other one is to be able to swim, because New Zealand is surrounded by ocean, so it'll be good they learn how to swim. So they can fight and swim, that's it, full stop. So for you guys, I don't care if you're feeling confident or you've got self-doubt, those things are all irrelevant, but I want you to have spent time understanding how courage fits in your world. So a lot of men in here. So this is how I roll. So every year new men come into the Chiefs. My first conversation with the young men, or it wasn't really their age really, have you got a girlfriend? They go, what's this got to do with rugby? I go, you'll figure it out. Have you got a girlfriend? Yeah, I have. All right, how long have you been going out? And if they're married, oh, you're married. Good man, how long have you been married? So girlfriend, yes, she must be really important to you. Yes, she is. Married, she must be really important to you. Yes, she is. Yeah, good, here's a scenario. You've been training hard all day. You go home, your legs are full of lactic acid. You got your game ready pants on, try and get that sorted for tomorrow. Your legs are up. You hear her car come up the drive. Then you hear her come up the stairs. Then you hear her get her key out, and then you hear her key go in the door. What's the first thing that goes through your head? Is it, yay, she's home? Or is it, ah, shit, she's home? And they're like, bro, you're weird, eh? How's that got to do with rugby? And I go, this is what it's got to do with rugby. If you hooked up with that girl when you were drunk, and you both had fun, but all of a sudden now, she wanted to have a coffee, and you couldn't say no, so you said yes. Then she wanted to have dinner, and you said yes because you didn't want to upset her, and she couldn't say no. Then she wanted to meet her parents, and now you're in a long-term relationship, and now you've got an apartment together. And they're like, if you're living the life of the coward, unconsciously it runs out an equation, a cowardly equation. So if you can't have the balls to say to this lady, it was fun for a little while, but we're done. I hate to sound horrible, but I'm just not into it. If you can't have that conversation, we're in the boo. Because with a minute to go against the Crusaders, if we're on our line 1 point down and we get the ball back on the 5 metre line, we're going to see whether you're a coward or a courageous man. Because a coward in rugby, what does that look like in that moment? Big forward, what does he usually do? Tucks the ball and takes a contact. So he doesn't muck it up, doesn't get battled out by his mates, the coach doesn't rip his head off. He's operating conservatively. When what we want, this is a Wayne Smith term, we want shining eyes. Which in that moment you see the men look up, the body language is different, they're thinking, how the hell do I tip this ball? I'm going to get smashed anyway, but I'll take that because we'll get someone to score down the far corner. Completely different set of behaviours coming from an unconscious mathematical equation. One is the coward, one is courage. This is the most important thing for you to take from the night. If you do not master courage, under the biggest moment, the coward is going to come through. Indecision, careful, conservative, won't be able to eat before the game, 3 times the toilet before the game because you've got irritable bowel syndrome, you're worried you're going to bloody shit yourself. That's all that sort of stuff play out. Can't eat the night before, want people to tell you you're doing really well, don't want any negativity around you, start to have all these little superstitions. That's all the coward. Yeah, that's I go blank. It goes blank occasionally. Just put up with that. So now this is the kicker. Again, if I was working with you individually, first thing I'm going to do is, do you love refereeing? And then if you've got a partner, I'm going to say, you love the person you're with? And for me, oh, you. That's why you probably say yes. And I'll say, good. Next time we catch up, I want you to bring her, because men lie. So the challenge for you, challenge for me, married man, when my wife says, I love you, sweetheart, can I hold her gaze? That's a pretty big challenge. So then your first challenge, and this is Sigmund Freud, 1890, so he's a father of psychology, he said 2 things for mental health, way back then. Leben and Arbeiten, love and meaningful work. So you should be able to be a man who can be loved by somebody else and let yourself be loved, and love somebody. That's nice, cuddle. Right. Be able to do that without having to have sex. Nice cuddle. Right? So that's really, really important. And the second bit is that your work is meaningful to you. So those 2 things are directly related to depression, anxiety, alcoholism, gambling, whatever those unhealthy behavioural habits are, it's all connected to the same thing. So your challenge is, where do you live on the line from courage to coward? When you brush your teeth in the morning or at night, the mirror was not designed for you to see how handsome you were. People think it's designed for you to do your hair and check your zips or whatever it is and check whether you're beautiful, right? That's what they reckon the mirror's for. No, it's not. The mirror was designed so you can have a conversation with yourself about whether you're living with integrity, which is kazimunto, integrity, do what you say. You love what you do, you love who you're with. That's that end. Or 0 out of 10, coward. Chasing lotto, hating what you do, a fake with your friends, never follow through, someday I'll, only if I had, should have had done. That's that end, 0 out of 10, 10 out of 10. So that's your first little line that you can brush your teeth. How am I living on that line? Have a little chat to the person next to you. If you're struggling in your relationship, don't talk about it because you'll start crying. We have got time. But seriously, if you've got, I've had people leave after I've asked this because they've got shit going down that they couldn't handle and they've left, and a couple in tears. So that's a really biggie. So if you have got shit going on, I feel for you, but now you've had to kick up the arse, because that's a conversation. Because you can ask yourself, what's the most courageous thing I need to do? It doesn't mean to say you have to leave a relationship or leave work, but it usually means there's a conversation that has to happen. So I hope I pushed you a little bit on that if you need it, because that's going to have an influence out there when you're reffing. Make no mistake, under your biggest moment of pressure and opportunity, if you aren't living in the courage end, there's potential that your handbrake will stuff that up for you because you've got stuff going on underneath. So have a little chat with each other, and the question is, and you're going to edit this, what's the most courageous thing you possibly need to do in your refereeing? I won't put life in there because you can take care of that off what we've been talking about. But what's the most courageous thing you probably need to do with the refereeing that you notice you're just a little bit of a coward and it's holding, you might be even holding you back. So just have a little chat and go, what's the most courageous thing? Even if you're a coach of a referee, what's the most courageous thing you do in your coaching of referees? Have a little chat while you go. So just reiterating from me where this courage sits in. If you have confidence issues, or self-doubt issues, or anxiety problems, or depression, I differentiate between trauma and depression, so that's another discussion. I mean just plain depression. I can't help you. So in my 20s, depression, massive panic attacks, agoraphobia, and my anxiety was so bad I had to start to have loud voices shout in my head for me to do stuff, bad stuff. It was pretty shocking. I can talk about it now, but back then it was pretty dark. The thing to understand here, I couldn't help my own self. because you can't, because those things are way down the track. So if you have panic attacks before you go and referee, I can't help you with panic, because that's way down the track. Where it starts with what we just talked about with courage and coward. If we behave courageously, a courageous man or a courageous human will not have anxiety. A courageous person who lives pure courage will not end up with depression. They cannot happen together, because this is why. When we behave courageously, you end up feeling pride. So you don't have to worry about the outcome. If you apply yourself to something and you give everything you've got, and you give it a go, and you push the limits and you behave courageously, you stand up for somebody at school, you stand up for someone at work and go, that's not okay. You will feel good for doing that. That's the sequence. Courage leads to pride. Automatic process in here. You do not have to make people feel good. You have to help them be brave. Courage, pride, self-like or self-love, or however you want to do it, self-acceptance. Off self-belief comes ambition and enthusiasm. There's some things about me which is pretty bloody good. So if I was a referee, but I have courageously go and set something up to push me, to really push me and learn, that's pretty what makes me feel good. Actually, I've got some good skills. All of a sudden I've got ambition and enthusiasm. Who knows what I could do with this? And now I'm in a good process. Now I want to go and get to work. So courage leads around here to work ethic, because you're investing now, and now you're more ready to go again. And then all of a sudden behave courageously again because you're on the front foot, so you're ready to have a go. So it becomes this positive cycle. So I don't have to help my girls start to deal with the shit that goes on social media, or what it's like to be a teenage woman in this world. I need to help them understand the importance of learning how to be brave and courageous and know who they are, where they're from, and stand up for what they believe, and off that they'll make good decisions. So the 16-year-old had her first alcohol party last year. She's had a couple this year already. 15, she comes and goes, Dad, one of my friends having a 16th birthday party and they're going to have alcohol, can I go? I said, absolutely. Bring me a plan, don't take it to your mum. She goes, good. She comes back half an hour. I said, what's the plan? She said, you drop me off at 5 o'clock and I'll text you when I'm ready to come home. I said, good plan. Because I'm thinking 15, 16 is only 2 years away of going out the door at customs. Right? It's a sight lot harder to get on a plane and get to Paris to help her out if she gets in the shit than going across the other side of Hamilton, which isn't very big. It's only 5 minutes in the truck. And I can help her out. So I thought that was a bloody good plan, but you can guarantee your mum would not have been happy with that plan. So I said, good girl. She goes, oh yeah. She goes, what about curfew? All my friends have to have a curfew. I said, no curfew. Sweetheart, I know what I was like at 15, and in 3 years or 2 years you could be travelling the world. So you're going to have to take care of your own curfew, eh? You know what's coming up next week, so you need to make some decisions about that, but no curfew. And you could see her, eh? She was like, oh sweet, okay, cool, yeah, good. She was like waiting for like, just kidding. Anyway, got a bus 11, she texts. Pick her up. Sweetheart, that's earlier, you could have been an all-nighter. She goes, the music was shit. How good is that, eh? Then the last couple, she comes home. Oh, again, it was about 1 o'clock was the last one. 1 o'clock, she comes in, comes over and she snuggles on my shoulder, eh? You can see she's been having a few. And I go, music better tonight, was it, sweetheart? She goes, yeah, it wasn't too bad. How good is that? Right? So I'm helping her understand what we're talking about, and that'll get everything happening that we need happening in our young people to grow up with resilience. Same thing for you. So you have to understand that, because the coward cycle, that's the courage I'm going to talk about, the coward cycle is just as powerful but the other end. Because how do we feel after we behave as a coward? We don't like ourselves very much at all. Coward, embarrassed or ashamed. That's where that leads really quickly. And then that leads to self-hate. What's depression? Depression is self-hate turned inwards, which is anger at ourselves. That's what depression is. That's why you end up hating yourself enough in the hole. To the worst act, you're suicidal. That's all the same thing, driving them down, right? Self-hate. If you hate yourself, you don't think you've got much to give the world. So now you've got anxiety, fear of failure, all mixed up. And then this is what that sounds like before you go and referee. And some of you will have this. That's dry reaching, right? That's what I'm listening for in the change room the whole time. We don't have any men dry reach. If we have a man dry reach, I'm going to go and see him on Monday morning and ask to have a meeting with him and his girlfriend. I can guarantee some shit's going on in the background for him to be doing that. That's not excitement. These men should be excited before they go and play a super game. They're living the dream. Same for you. You should not be before you go and referee. That's not excitement. That's that cycle. And then what happens then if you have performance anxiety or fear of failure, you do less to prepare. Or you're so over the top with your preparation that it's ridiculous. Most of the time I've done none because your head's so damn busy and noisy, you're perfectionistic, way too much prep, and then you've got no prep basically because it's just a clutter. But that's what comes out there, and then you're less ready for the moment. And guess what? You stuff that up too. And usually because you're trying to back out of the pressure as fast as you can, and you make mistakes from careful and being conservative. So refereeing on your professional development plan, you should have courage to coward, and then something that's pushing you into the rattle, so you get used to being distressed. People go, I'll talk about it with my daughters. See, my daughters have been a psychological experiment, that's all they've been. I intentionally make them distressed. I want them to learn how to be stressed as a kid, then as a teenager, because if they don't learn how to be distressed as a kid and as a teenager, what are they going to be as an adult when they get distressed? They're going to be a wreck. You face it, most of our parents would be done by child, youth and family for neglect now. When you think about how we, at my age, how we were raised by our parents. From age 7, we were pretty free. By age 10, 11, you're making some income on the farm, plucking rotten sheep, skinning possums, whatever it is. You're expected to work, be part of it. You're building resilience the whole time, driving a tractor from when you were 10, whatever it might be. These things these days, it's crazy how careful we're making our kids. My scary thing is those kids are now then going to go on and have kids. So then we've got kids that are raised by careful parents because they were careful kids. And then my parents were the direct children of people from the war. So see how we're getting further and further away from community and risk and responsibility, and so it's scary. So courage, if you've got children, you've got to start injecting courage so they understand that's the most important thing, and then obviously for you refereeing as well. Courage to coward, massive continuum. If you've got boys, girls, it's irrelevant. Same thing, critical. Here's the next question. And obviously you're sitting with people that you're born close to, so you might not know them very well. You can ask this question. What would be your worst bad habit? But again, I understand there's some private bad habits and there's public bad habits. I don't want to know about your private bad habits. So you don't have to share that with the person just meeting, but just have a little chat about maybe what are some of your bad habits in your life that you know you do that other people give you shit for, and just have a little chat to each other. What's your worst bad habit and what's my worst bad habit, and see if there's any themes. Away you go, have a chat about that. So this question, like what's your bad habit, I'm wanting to grow awareness. So bad habits serve as protecting you from your deepest fear. So part of our work to do together would be individually, would be the stuff I've talked about, but also be helping you uncover your deepest fear. Because the deepest fear controls the ship, unconsciously. So you don't think it might be, you think you've got the ship under your control, but in the biggest moments of pressure, what you'll see influencing your behaviour is your deepest fear. So you might think you've done all the prep, you're sort of like I said before, but if you have a deep fear of being an imposter, then in that moment you'll be, don't muck this up. So you're now playing for motivation not to fail versus, in my sense of the world, playing to win. Playing to win versus playing not to fail is a very different universe. So unless you understand your fears, they're going to continue to influence your life. So if you have these habits that have you repeating this every 5-year cycle, and now you're 45 years old and you're going, when am I going to learn? Right? That's what that's about. Underneath you've got a fear that's just quietly taking care of the ship, and its job is to save you from ever realising your deepest fear. So if your fear is being seen as an imposter, then maybe some of your bad habits will be incredibly controlling, over-preparing, never getting feedback. Right? So if these are all some of your bad habits, they just serve to protect you from your deepest fears that other people see that you're shit. And then it just does its job, does its job, and then all of a sudden you're 65 and then this grumpy grandfather. It doesn't change, it doesn't have an age thing, and then you're like, oh, you're 50 now, you can just relax. Right? Now this is the way you can do it away from here, is just go and ask, if you've got children, go and ask your brothers or sisters, so uncle and auntie, to go and ask your children for a couple of words that describe Dad. And you'll get a bit of an idea about how you're tracking. Because people who don't know that they've been asked because it's going to go back to you will then give you a bit of a picture about how you're ticking over. So there's a great way to get everyone in this group, you can ask other people to get some 2 or 3 words about you. And if we're working individually, I'm going to ask you to ask 5 people for 3 words. So you get 15 words to describe who you are. And you can guarantee your core fear will start popping up in there. So if your children say, you're a prick, right? That's a big kick up the arse straight away, isn't it? Because more than likely by the time they're a young woman, they won't want you at the birth, and they won't want you to come along to the wedding, and you'll be that dad that's quietly not involved. Rightio, so there's that part, courage and fear, the yin and the yang. So here's the next, we'll just do a couple more and then we'll wrap it up. Talk to the person next to you. When you come to review your refereeing, what are you looking for? What do you look at? What's the first thing you pay attention to? This is the line between moments of perfection to moments of shit. MOP, MOS, optimism, pessimism. So as a referee, do you go straight in and target all the areas where you've made mistakes? Is that what you're paying attention to in your head? Right, just have a little chat to each other and go, what's the first thing you look at when you review your game? And just have a little chat with each other. Moments of shit, or moments of magic, or moments of perfection. Where you go, have a little chat about that. This is an important one, just for, obviously refereeing, we'll see how that, we'll talk about how that's important, but this is life in general. So they've studied communities where there's more 100-year-olds than other communities. I think they call them blue zones, where there's more 100-year-olds than others in the world. What they've found, the number one variable to longevity, over what you eat, whether you smoke or not. So this is obviously, like some people just get a rough deal with the card, so that's just tragic how some people just get a bloody tough deal. So you take that group out and you look at general people in the population, if you're doing okay, that's the group I'm talking about. The thing that's going to influence whether you live to an old age or not is going to come down to the quality of your relationships. That is the number one variable for longevity. People who have significant positive relationships with other people, doesn't have to be a marriage relationship, so it can be a mate, it can be a friend, it can be a rugby mate, they live longer than people that don't. That's powerful, eh? So the thing is, when you come in this club room after a game of footy, people like to hang around with people who are optimistic and positive. If you're a shithead, you don't have much popularity, and then you'll probably have suck on your 7 ounce, whether they'll still go up 7 ounces or handles, and then you'll go early because you'll feel like you're a reject and no one likes you. Well, guess what? You are. Right? And you'll be like that because your way of framework, or the way that you see the world, is you always pay attention to what I call moments of shit. Now, moments of shit is you worry about what's going wrong right now. So on the field, when you're refereeing, your mind will be full of how you're about to make a mistake, or you're worried about whether you're making the right decision. You're indecisive right here. And you'll be worrying about the decision you made 55 minutes ago. Or if it's really bad, 5 years ago, you'll be worried about what they say, assholes. Right? That could be 20 years ago. That could be like your brother, and you're now 65. What he said to you at 15, you haven't forgiven him for. Right? So that's that. And then you worry about what's coming tomorrow. So you worry about the last 10 minutes of the game. You worry about making a mistake, now it's been going pretty good. You worry about the wheels falling off. That's moments of shit philosophy. You're always worried. You're always argumentative. You're always having yes but conversations when someone says something, yeah but. Right? That's that person. The other one sees opportunity everywhere. They've got a guitar, they love meeting new people and finding out where they're from, what they're into. And even though they've just had their asses kicked, they're 45-0 out there, that's gone. They're having a beer with them because they played some awesome rugby. That's the sort of guy that you're going to have a good table around, there's going to be some laughs, that's where people will hang out till 3 o'clock in the morning. Because they're optimistic, because they're positive. Completely different framework. So you think about, again, how do we help our kids get ready for life? I want them to go out at 18 years old, optimistic. I want them to go to Columbia, even though there's some bad crack in Columbia, right? I want them to think there's opportunity to go all around the world if I do it sensibly. So a lot of people go up through Columbia, but most Kiwis go to London and go and find a pub where there's 50 other Kiwis. And jump on a bus and go across Africa as an adventurous Kentucky with 100 other Kiwis. It's like, bullshit, right? Different ways of seeing the world. So with your refereeing, in rugby, the thing that pisses me off most, after a game of footy on a Saturday night, first clips most coaches show, 20 minutes of errors. And they think that's the way that people need to learn. But the challenge I've got is, imagine if you could learn through moments of success. Imagine if the coach came and said, boys, okay, I'm going to show you the best scrums I've seen this year. 2 of those scrums from that game are the best scrums I've seen in all Super Rugby this year. Let's understand how that happened. The boys are going to be, all right, yeah, let's have a look at them. Versus, what were you thinking? How many times have I told you? So that's that philosophy. So you really need to check within refereeing, how do you do it? Because if we want people to embrace pressure, They need to have a sense of going into that pressure, who cares if they spill the milk? Because if they're worried about spilling milk going into that, because you've told them all the times they've spilled milk and what's the problem with that, and analyse that and try to learn through the mistakes, they're going to be sensitive to error. And they've automatically got the handbrake on. So we could be generating the very thing they're trying to avoid. Certainly do it in rugby, we certainly do it in our schooling, and we do it, as I was saying before, with our kids. We're constantly pulling the handbrakes on. I just think it's the best gift I've had with my daughters is to be that dad. Like you're just still going to, we'll talk a little bit about how this works, but you're still going to have some difficult conversations. Like I'm really clear, for a house to function well, the children need to understand there's a grizzly bear in the house. Most of the time he's a fat, cuddly, brown bear. But just be careful, because inside that there is also a grizzly bear. It just makes things function a little bit better. And I reckon kids like that, because they don't have to worry about being an adult. They can just be kids because they know dad's got it or mum's got it. But somewhere in the house there needs to be a grizzly bear, because that's safety. So we'll still have this little parenting talk. Because there's this thing now about parents can't be the boss. Well, people say to me, what do you do about phones and Wi-Fi? And I'm thinking, what do you mean what do you do about phones and Wi-Fi? Who's the boss? Far out. But they're 16. You're 46! Fuck! Anyway. So there's Moss. You can just check where you sit on that line each day with your colleagues at work. Ask people to go and get some feedback. What is this guy pessimistic or optimistic? So you can get feedback on that. But you want to live long, you want to have good relationships, stay courageous and stay moments of perfection focused. Optimism. Here's the next question. We'll do one more and then we'll just talk about a couple of things to close it off. What needs to happen in a referee in a game of footy? What needs to happen in a game of footy for you to go to bed feeling really happy with the game? What needs to happen in your refereeing or in a game of footy if you go to bed feeling pretty chuffed with how you went, pleased with the way things have gone? So have a little chat with each other, and if you're coaching, then talk about that side of it too, so you can talk about it from each perspective. There you go, have a little chat. And if you're a school person, you can ask about exams. What needs to happen for you to feel happy after an exam? There you go.
Script, then you could focus on,
So this one is
I focused on my positioning that whole game, because I knew.
a really important one. And this is where I see, how do you word it? I think high performance sports got this wrong. So, you know, they're on my third Olympic cycle. They have all these KPIs about performance. They believe that if we focus on performance, we'll get performance. And you can get that for a short time, but in the end it pops people. Because I see athletes, for them to go to bed feeling happy, they have to PB every day. They have to win every competition. They have to podium at a world event, otherwise they lose their pegs. Everything's attached to outcome. So if you have, for me to go to bed feeling happy, I've got to referee a perfect game. I can't make any mistakes. I see that in rugby too. Make all my tackles, score some tries, have the coach say I'm the best player on the field, have social media say to me afterwards, I'm going to be an All Black. Outcome, 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 outcome. Or icing, 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 icing. All outside the person. If you have, let's say you have a problem with irritability. A few men have problems with irritability and snap, like that, right? What that usually attached to is, for me to go to bed feeling happy, nothing can go wrong. Everything has to be right. Nothing out of place. So I learned this trying to parent my daughters, or my first daughter when she was the only one there. And because I was a home dad, wife's busy coming home from work, she's under the pump, she comes in crying. I told her it's wrong time to cry, sweetheart. She then upped the tantrum and smashed the glass window with her head between the kitchen and the foyer. And I went, "Who?" So I stopped doing the dishes, picked her up, she wasn't bleeding. But I thought, oh, what just happened there? But see, this is why I realised I became a clinical psychologist. Because I thought, this is how shallow I am, right? C- average, stand in the Canterbury campus after graduating my my first bit. And I thought, shit, what am I going to do now? And I thought, well, I actually want a hot wife. So I thought, I want a hot wife, and all the ladies that do psychology are really attractive. So I'll keep doing psychology because I'm ugly. So I increase my chances. Funny thing is, I married a clinical psychologist, she's hot, so it's her case. But anyway, the way the universe works, eh? But in that moment when I picked that little girl up, I mean, that was why I became a psychologist, so I could understand what just happened, because for me to go to bed feeling happy, she had to listen first time, do as she's told and behave perfectly, especially when we're in public, because that was a reflection of me as a parent. So she had to be perfect, I had to be perfect. She was a quiet kid, didn't laugh, very serious, even at 2 years old. So I went, if that's 2, I know what that's going to look like at 10. Now you've got a very well behaved little girl that everyone goes, oh, your little girl's so well behaved. But she still won't laugh. So now you've got anxiety behaviour. She's behaving well because she wants everyone to think she's a good little girl. Then at 18, but it doesn't matter if it's boy or girl, gender things are relevant. Then at 18, I've just got girl, so that's what makes sense in my head. Then at 18, we're going to be in for a different sort of party experience with our under 16s going out for the first beers, eh? It wouldn't have been shit music, it would have been loose. Right, and that's why. So you've got a mixed up kid, a mixed up old adult, and then a really mixed up adult. So that's how that plays out. So whenever we have success equals performance, I have yet to see it in 25 years be a good thing. Even though when people think this is the way we need to get performance from people. So how I operate is I go people up. So I don't worry about performance, that's the icing on the cake. Weddings. Weddings are classic. And if this was your wedding, I apologise for you and it means you're now divorced, well then I told you so. When the wedding cake comes out, what do people usually do? The last thing is, they don't, they cut it because they have to, but usually they take the marzipan and then break it off, and then they've got this bit of shitty fruitcake in the middle. So no, you watch people in the next wedding you go to, you have a look at the body language around a traditional wedding cake. People are like, oh shit, the cake's here. And then they're like, it gets passed around and they're like, oh, okay. Then they take a piece and then they break off the marzipan and they're left with this dry, shitty piece of fruitcake that probably cost about 10 grand. Right? I go to those weddings and say, give the marriage 6 months. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, look, they're all about the icing. So when my girls get married, they're going to have, I'm going to take care of the cakes, chocolate cake, carrot cake, or a fruit cake. Bowls of icing beside the cakes, with a sign in the front that goes, we don't give a rat's ass about icing in this family, but if you want some icing in the cake, help yourself. And they can make their own decision, but we're just going to be about the cakes. Because I reckon another example of where the life's got to is children are all about icing. Young people are all about icing. I don't want to go through the hardship of earning my positions. I don't want to go and earn my first car. I want you to buy me a first car. I'm going to buy you a mini, what are those minis, those $45,000 mini. Bloody hell. Right, so people are jumping to icing. Everything's about how we look, what street we're on, etc, etc. Get pissed off about it because now we're looking at what drives people into the hole is I have to be perfect. So this is the way I roll. So I went, okay, so this little girl didn't laugh very much. So I went, right, if that's going to give me a 10-year-old and an 18-year-old like that, they can get stuff. And I just turned it on its head and went, for me to go to bed feeling happy, my daughter needs to not listen, do what she wants, be disobedient. In fact, I haven't got my wife to let them draw on the walls, although I was away a little while ago and I came home and they painted them all, but that's right, they're 17 or 16 now. So I did the reverse, because I went, okay, she don't laugh very much. If you forget about her behaving, sunshine, you've got to help her laugh, otherwise we're in for a very rough road. So I went, right, how to make a kid laugh? I thought, easy, you just fart. So I started farting, eating bran 3 times a day, and I could fart clean and on cue when I wanted, and she started laughing. Now that same 16-year-old, she's 16 now, 2-year-old 16, I think there's a boy on the scene because she's not as strong with it as she used to be, but she'll come and find me, not a mum, come find me to do this before bed each night, so I can kiss her head. I'm not religious at all, it's just a little thing that she really likes, kiss her on the head, and then she goes off to bed peaceful. That's the very thing that smashed the window with the glass with her head when she was 2. Now she wants me to kiss it. So you see, okay, I've gone, whoa, that was worth having that lesson, eating ice cream for breakfast, farting, being a little bit unusual in my parenting, for her now to be this free agent at 16, still wanting to have that connection with dad. So then our challenge is, what needs to happen for you to feel happy? How are we coaching the people mentoring us around us? Because if we're mentoring them to have success equals perfection, because we think that's the way, you're on a ticking time bomb. I can tell you right now. They may look like they've got it sorted, but then you see all these behaviours come through where they are actually petrified of failing. Even though we're trying to release them, there'll be more and more handbrake, more and more handbrake. So that's part A, because you see, for me, that's part A. You just can't eat ice cream and fart to have a bloody good life. So you've got to, this is the other part to it when you think about it. I just call it empty the tank. You probably heard that when you were growing up, so I just made it in my head, I want to encourage effort. So I started with the girls in the primary school. They knew that when they came home with the school report, if they had excellence or very good, or whatever it was on that column for effort, all of them and both girls together, they got to go out to dinner wherever they wanted. So the wallet was open. So they see I'm starting to pump up effort, not outcome, because I want someone who has a strong effort base. So I'll tell a story to give you an idea about how this looks, and you'll start to see how it looks in our lives. So the 8-year-old's going off cross country. She goes, I said, sweetheart, what's the most important thing today? She goes, have fun, Dad. So I'm pleased with that, because that's the first part of the equation. I said, yeah, have fun. And empty the tank. She goes, yeah, all right, empty the tank. I come home late from footy, she comes running out, jumps in my arm, how'd it go, sweetheart? She goes, I ran as hard as I could, and then I walked. So I'm real happy. 8-year-old, for me to go to bed feeling happy, I've got to empty the tank. See, that's really good for me, thinking about just growing the cake of her psychology. Next year, same thing. She goes, Dad, guess what? I go, what, sweetheart? She goes, someone vomited today when they crossed the line. Now I'm thinking, here we go. I said, what does that mean, sweetheart? She goes, I think they mean they're really emptied. So now I've got an 8-year-old who's now a 9-year-old. For her to go to bed feeling happy, she has to empty the tank, and that means she has to vomit. So if she's going to be any good at sport, now I'm real happy, because that's what sits underneath our Olympians. Because we knew London, Rio, and we know already in Tokyo who's going to gold medal. We know already who's going to be in that silver gold chase. It will be podium. Crazy, eh? So that means we should only take 10 athletes to the Olympics. That's why I was like, all right, okay, so if our sports performance, we should only take 10. If it's not, obviously it's not, but then you see how they operate. They take 290 athletes, knowing that only 10 of those are probably going to be in about where we want them, and the rest know that they'll just go in the Olympics. So it's just, I struggle with that. Anyway, what was I talking about? Into the tank, thank you. So those athletes that we know are going to perform, when they train, they train. So they just don't do a gym. They do a gym and fall off the erg. They do a gym and fall off the bike. They do a gym and they can't get up for 20 minutes. Then they've got to force themselves to eat, because they've drained their bodies just like you wouldn't believe. And then they try and recover, and then they've got to train in the afternoon, and then they've got to sleep and do it again for another 3 years. So we know, based on their inputs and their scores in big events around the world, where they're sitting. And it always holds true, because they empty the tank. So that little girl, she started setting an alarm clock for 6:15, 6:30 and 7:15. I said to her, sweetheart, what are the alarm clocks for? She said, 6:15 is my wake up. Then I had myself 15 minutes just to sleep in. The 6:31 is my get up, so I've got 15 minutes just to cuddle with my blankie and my teddy bear before I have to get up. And I said, what's the 6:45 for one? She said, in case I go back to sleep. So you see how now once you get this ticking over, you've got to actually be very careful, because that can lead to such a deep work ethic that they will destroy themselves without self-care. So you just got to be mindful. If you start going down this track where you put effort as number one and let the universe ice your cake, you're going to create something which is going to be magic, but you need to help them be very mindful about self-care, because they start to compromise their own health for giving back, or because they just put everything in. So you create a very special human, but they can be a little bit self-destructive in that side of it, because they become so passionate. So that's part of it. But here's where it really applies to us too, I reckon, to the teenage children. So we call it school cert when I was at school. They call it NCA 1. Last year, mock exams, having dinner. My wife goes, David, Purapurawhiti passed all of her mock exams. I said, did she? Carried on eating. So you imagine what that does in the kitchen, because I'm thinking it's time for the grizzly bear, because there's some layers in this which we need to help them learn. So she goes, oh, and then Purapurawhiti goes, I think you should be more encouraging, Dad. And my wife goes, yes, David, I think you should be more encouraging. She's done very well. And I was eating my dinner, and I look across at my little daughter, 15. I said, sweetheart, encouragement's the last thing you need. Wow, kitchen, boom! She gets up, walks out, she didn't rinse the dishes. Now that's my big number one. I thought, okay, just leave that one, because this is a different discussion. She goes to the room, slams the door, traditional teenage, boom! I'm like, tension's in the house. Tension is good. Now we're going to have a learning. Grizzly bear's allowed to be out 2 or 3 times a year. I just let them off the chain. My family motto, get this, my family motto is 4 muzzled brown bears. The grizzly has been in my family for 1276. So I'm like, grizzly bear, he can come off right under the chain. Where you go. Wife goes, I can't understand that, and she walks out too, so I'll repair that one later. But she put her two gets up in the morning, she comes out, no kiss that night on the head. For a texting Kennedy, he's an arsehole. I said, sweetheart, did you figure it out? She goes, I can't figure you out. So I'm going, good. I said, you've got a Ferrari in here and you're driving it like a Toyota Corolla. Why should I encourage you for that? Because I know you did no study for any of those exams. I caught you in the cafes 2 times and I know you had lunch with your friends in the gardens because I saw you. You weren't doing any study. And you'll have friends that would have worked their butts off to get a C. I'm more proud of them than I am of you. And I just walk out. Because remember, 16 becomes 18 real fast. If she goes out customs thinking she's the bee's knees because she can achieve things without putting any work in, she's going to get spat out, chewed up, and I'll get a phone call. I want to come home. The world's a really scary, horrible place. Oh, is it? Right, so I'm preparing her for the hardship that is real in our world. It's competitive, it's brutal, and if she wants to make something of her life, she's going to have to learn how to get punched in the face and get up and realise that in the morning she's going to have to get up and work hard to make something of her life. So you see how important that is as a message? That's way more important than thinking she can pass her mock exams with no study. What a terrible thing for her to start building her confidence on. That's crap. So I look at her and said, oh, that's right, so I left it. Then the school reports come out. Like that week or the week later, so I sat down and went through the school report. I said, what's your summary, sweetheart? I went through it. She goes, Dad, I think I need to start driving the Ferrari. So I opened my hands and now I put the grizzly bear away. And just big cuddles, big hugs, sweetheart, I love that. I love how you think about stuff and find out what the key messages are. And I said, here's the key thing for you. Dad's going to buy you your first car. And you don't have to pay a cent. She goes, you're going to buy me a Toyota Corolla. I said, I'm going to buy you a Toyota Corolla, correct. And I'm also going to buy you a little Matchbox Ferrari. And I'm going to get one of those little wire dancers that sit on the old spring. I'm going to rip that sucker off there. I'm going to glue the Ferrari to the top of that spring. And I'm going to weld it to the top of your dash so you can't get it off. And everywhere you drive, every time you go over a little bump, you have this little wriggling Ferrari in front of you while you drive your Toyota Corolla, because that's the lesson of your life. You can do anything you want. You've got everything up here. You've got a great upbringing. You've got mum and dad at home. You've got everything you need. Now it's just about you unleashing the Ferrari. So you see how for us, we've got to help these young men that are coming through, or women that are coming through and refereeing, and help them understand outcome is about what you put in, not the actual icing or the performance is the icing. The cherry might be to referee a World Cup final. I'm talking about the cake. They need to understand that they've got to put in. That's what success should be defined by, is what do they actually put into that performance to prep for it, to get ready for it. And that's the key. So it's the same for us, it's the same for our kids. But we can live in a world where we're growing from the bottom up and then challenging and growing and rewarding. Easy to reward that, you just lay all of your goodies on effort, not outcome. If you've got outcome with no effort, you shouldn't reward that. That should be a challenging conversation. If you get effort but no performance, you should reward that. Because now we've got we're failing from a strong place rather than succeeding from a weak one. Real powerful mindset. Right, just have a little chat with you, each person in 2s and 3s. What's the one thing that you're hearing from this? And we'll wrap it up with one last example, and then we'll just maybe a couple of questions, and that could be good to go. When we think about this whole piece as a package, the underlying theme for me is we need a mindset where success is challenged, success is fail. There's a company in Google called X, which just sits in the part of Google where their one goal is to fail. On a Monday morning when the teams come in, there's standing ovation for the team that failed the most based on the numbers from the week before. The biggest failure within that team then becomes the leader for that week. So they are just encouraging failure, failure, failure. When they think of a new project, they attack it with the hardest problem first. They don't start at the easiest problem. They go, what's the hardest thing about this project? We're going to start there to see if that's going to stuff us up. At the moment, they're trying to design a balloon that sits just underneath the space atmosphere, whatever that's called, and floats around the winds on the earth, carrying a little wee transmitter that's basically going to take out of the equation needing to have a satellite or a receiver and a transmitter station. Because they'll be able to send data from that little wee computer that's floating in the balloon to every single cell phone in the world with no satellite involved. So you see how powerful that would be. So that's the project they're working right now, and their motivation is to try and prove it's not possible. So they just live in the world that success is failure, because success in that respect is learning and growth. So we need that mindset. But now what we do is we open this up to, success should be distress. Success should be tension. Success should be challenge. So our job then becomes, how do we form a secure, but let's say I'm supporting a referee, how do we form a secure base so they know we care? How do we build a plan which is about extending them, giving them the resources to learn, good mentoring, good feedback opportunities, and then challenging them to see how good they are at quietening their mind to step in and try something new. So this is very, very important, because that's where skill really works, acquisition really takes over. So as soon as I thought about this the whole way through the kids, so when the 5-year-old at school, most people park on the safe side of the road at primary school age, so the kid doesn't get run over. When I go to the high school now and pick up my older girls, I'm amazed at how many teenagers don't know how to cross the bloody road. They are mad. Honestly, no one's actually taught them how to take responsibility for their own life, even at that space. So when they're 5, Grace, we're going to learn to cross the road. I park on the most dangerous road, most dangerous side of the road. Cars, whoom, 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 big trucks, whoom, whoom. Okay, Gracie, he feels a little, I said, right, we're going to learn to cross the road. Dad's got this. We're not going to learn together. Just relax. Just do what I do and follow my lead. A couple of weeks, he's going good. I said, sweetheart, you're going pretty good now, eh? She goes, yeah, I like this, Dad. This is fun. I said, all right, so now you do it. Let's do it together, but you just control my hand. You tell me when to go and stop. She's like, okay, cool. And then she's learning how to do it. And then she got good at it. So I'm just keeping thinking right now, so we need to take her into distress. So I said, all right, sweetheart, are you ready for a challenge? She goes, yeah, Dad, I am. I said, all right, we're going to pretend that Dad's blind. And she's like, her little hand around my hand crumps up like this. So I said to her, sweetheart, you've got my life and your life in your hands. She's 5 years old. Most people go, you're an abusive father. And I go, I come see your children cross the road and they're teenagers then, eh? Sometimes it would take half an hour to cross this road. And I could hear that it's quietened off and there's no small school traffic and there's no truck coming. And I'd be like, Galbraith, you have to be patient. This is about her when she's 18. Half an hour now, 18 years old, okay. I have a little peek, no car. But a listen, no car. Alright. But you see the philosophy behind that? How are we helping our referees get comfortable with the stress? So my girls now ride pony club. So they'll come past me to go and do their little show jumping thing, and they'll come past and I'll go, Grace. She go, what? I go, I think your girth's loose. And she's like, what? I said, carry up, go, you've got to go, you can't fix it. So you see, I'm just trying to find ways to perform distress. Basketball, they both play basketball at Hillcrest. Oldest girl last year, I said, who got this week, sweetheart? She goes, oh, I've got, we're playing Fraser. Now Fraser's, if anyone knows Hamilton, Fraser's a hard ass school. They go to Hillcrest, which is middle of the road public school. Different sides of the railway tracks. I go, oh, that's tough, they're hard. And she goes, yeah, I think we'll lose. I went, well, no, hold on, sweetheart. You could die. She's like, oh, what do you mean? I said, I've seen them play. There's 2 players in there, they're about 95 kgs and they play basketball like they play rugby. They could tackle you, could hit your head, have an aneurysm all over. She's like, you're scaring me. I go, good. And she goes, I said, what else is possible? Because you guys are fit, they're not. What's going to happen in the 3rd quarter and the 4th quarter if you actually play some decent basketball and get stuck into it? She said, well, we could win. I said, oh, yeah, so you could win, or you could die. So what are you going to do? And she goes, oh, I understand. I'm going to hold a meeting tomorrow. I'm going to talk about our goal, just ripping into these guys. I said, good girl. So you see how it's saying with us with these referees? Rugby players, sometimes these guys come back from shoulder injuries. They want people to say, oh, your shoulder's good, you're going good, everything's sweet, don't worry, you'll be fine. So you see how that's all reassuranceing. That's not helping them. It's like my wife coming in and going, what do you think of my new dress, sweetheart? I'm in difficult territory right there. I'll say to her, sweetheart, because if I say, it's a lovely dress, you know what's going to happen? She's going, oh, that's nice. She's going to get the door and she's going to turn around and go, you're not lying, are you? Because all I'm doing is reassuring her anxiety that it's not a very nice dress or a wrong colour. I need to say to her, why'd you buy the damn thing? I want her to prove to me why she bought it and then wear it with courage, even if she thinks, I think it's a shit dress. Anyway, so these guys have these problems with their shoulders and knees, right? And everyone around them, their girlfriends, their mums and dads are reassuring everything's going to be fine. I walk past them on the warm-up, they know this is how I roll. I walk past them on the field before the game and I go, bro, I had a really bad dream last night, you're going to stuff the other one tonight. Right? Because I want them to feel the distress that their mind's going to give them anyway. Because what's going to happen if they get a stinger on that shoulder in the first minute of the game? They are now panicking No, even when the medical come out and go, nah, still, it's all good, but it's hurting like the damn, they are now worried they've destroyed their shoulder again. We're stuffed, because now that guy's suboptimal. He could cost us on that shoulder in that channel, and we could have two tries gone in the first 15 minutes, because he popped in here because of the distress. So unless we can get good at feeling the distress, I almost rip into it anyway, we're nowhere near our potential. So you've got to understand as a coach, support, or even as a referee, you've got to start shaping your work-ons to generate distress. If I was in your area, I'd have levels of distress. I'd be doing basic distraction. Then I'd be right, you ready for the next level? And then I'd send some emotional stuff down there. Then the third level is I'd go and do some digging about your previous relationships, and I'd chuck some stuff at you you did not know anyone else knew. Because if that got you, they'll be like, got you. And that's all it is, it's just learning how to deal with the stress so you don't get distracted and you can make your call based on your instincts. Same thing, no matter what the levels. So we've got to understand that that challenge zone is critical in development. But you can't do that if you have success equals perfection, because the last thing you want to do is go to that place, because that's where you're going to fail for a while too. It's going to be messy. So you see how these layers start to come together. Courage to coward, optimistic framework, success is input, not output. Let the icing and the cherries, the universe take care of that, just bake the cake. And the last one's understanding it's got to be messy. And then on the other side of that comes optimal performance, but not until you're comfortable and then release. And then the old handbrake's not there anymore. But that's in life, it's in refereeing, it's in business, it's in marriage, it's whatever it is. Right. I just had a little chat to finish off the evening. What's the one thing you've taken away this, and what does it mean for life or refereeing? And if there's any questions, we'll just do a couple of questions off the end. So just finish it off in your chats and we'll wrap it up. One or two questions. Let's hear those now, otherwise we'll call it a night and go home.
Any questions, guys? Nope.
Sure. I'd got a cheesecake, blue, washed rind and a camembert for the wedding cake.
Oh, that's a pretty. You must have a good marriage. Yeah, I bet. I imagine that's your wedding cake. Oh, very nice. You bugger.
No questions?
With the success and failure, showing that as a coach,
Yeah.
I like going, you're doing this well,
Yeah.
remember that feeling,
Yeah.
why did you do this?
Yeah.
Because you're doing the success more,
Yeah.
but what does this feel like?
Yeah.
And get out of it.
Yeah. So that your thing is you've got to find your own way to do this bit.
Yeah. Because going through and going, you did that wrong, wrong.
Yeah.
But sometimes you've got to show the wrong.
Yeah.
Because you're actually doing right.
Yeah.
Do this more than.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really good point, because please don't think I'm saying you've got to do it this way. You've got to find out based on who the person is, how they roll, what the ratio is, and those sorts of things. The bit I just want to extend us on is what I've seen. Because the stuff you're hearing tonight, there's a book there, so if you want to grab a book, good, because that'll help you with my mortgage. So everything we've talked about is in the book. There's 20 athletes that contributed to it. Some good rugby players are in there as well, just talking about how they do this stuff in their head. I've been lucky to see some bloody good coaches work over 11 years in Super Rugby. It's crazy how you get to see people do this. So the stuff you're hearing isn't what I've created in my head, it's just watching good people do it, and I've learned from that. What I've seen so I could probably, out of 11 years of Super Rugby and 3 Olympic cycles, I always reflect on who the great coaches have been, and I reckon there's less than 5. And all that time I'd say they are a great coach. There's a lot of good coaches, and there's some shit ones. But there's only a real small number of the great ones. And the great ones, what I reckon they do, is they have the ability to see the big picture. So they can go, I've got 36 weeks with this young man, and I know where I want him to be in the semi-finals of a super campaign with his skills, and I know what that looks like in pre-season, I know what it looks like in week 1. So they know which mistakes they need to pay attention to, and which ones they can just leave alone, because they know in 6 weeks it's not going to be there, because the growth is happening in the right place in the right way at the right time. So they've got a developmental approach. Now they're able to sit there and think twice and go, oh, I don't understand about that one. That's the shift I want. That's it. Blow the whistle. Right ball's coming. How do we do that? Talk us through how you did that right there. Let's get that video footage on there. Can we get the video footage on there? Show us back to them. So that's how they roll for their whole coaching session. They will go to a moment of shit if they've been unable to get the learning that they need through that moment of success. So they're weighing that all up, and if they go, we have to go there, they'll go there. But that'll be like, the ratio is crazy different than the other philosophy. So they still go there, and when they have one-on-ones, it's sometimes pretty brutal because they know that they have to talk about this. So that's a good point. So it's not all fluffies. Yeah, it's harder. I reckon it's hard to live in this mock world because as a coach, you see how much work's got to go into that. It's like raising a kid versus just trying to get it right for this week to beat the Crusaders or beat the Hurricanes, because that's where most coaches live, week by week, game by game. They have no big picture, let alone 3 or 4 years depth. And the great coaches have that 3 or 4 year view. It's crazy, and they're already thinking about the high school guys that they know around the country with where they want them in 4 years. So they just have layers. Yeah, good question, good point.
Cool, I think we'll wrap it up there. David, just on behalf of the association, thanks very much for coming along tonight.
Pleasure.
A few of us have seen you speak multiple times, and I think we always come away from something a little bit different, and we learn something. And to be able to come along to the association and just give us a little bit of insight into perhaps thinking a little bit more high level, it certainly is much appreciated. If you do want to grab a book, it's $40. As David said, helping pay his mortgage. But it is a good read, so I do highly recommend it. So just on behalf of the association, guys, if we just give David a round of applause.